Greetings. What I had on my mind specifically for concerning the title is just that, well, it's never seems like it's one literal thing because everything's connected, but it's just that what what is it in the mind and heart? It's hidden, coming from the church world and denominations, growing up as maybe all of his people eventually, come out of the actual church world. But that's not really the focus, just that whatever was first, it's just a blank, not understanding, no confidence. And then because of worries, doubts, fears, pride, that's there first, very much pride. And I'm just explaining what goes on in the mind, even speaking for myself, of course, is that when we don't know something or think we might not know something, we fill it in automatically with something, and or fill it in with a blank and say it's okay, forget about it, and then it's gone. And they have a way of doing this in there. It's just amazing. It truly is a sorcery. It truly is some kind of spiritual sorcery to be seen in spirit only, because that's what's going on concerning his things. It's like Alzheimer's. It's like the memory loss, sort of like being drunk and your memory's messed up or anything like remotely like that. But like in spirit, spiritually, forgetting instantly, so quickly, and forgetting good works, forgetting anything that's good, wiped out as if it never happened. I see that in people that don't believe, the enemies. It just goes away, but they'll remember forever one little speck, one little black dot. Or if it's a big thing, the point is it's remembered. Oh, it's very much remembered, and it stays inside forever. And then if someone hurts somebody, unbeliever to unbeliever, all those things that are already inside come out and boil over because it's not forgiving. So the Father, they have not been forgiven at all for anything yet. So it cannot forgive. He or she cannot forgive. So then the only thing left is wrath. The Father's wrath. And that was, to understand the Father's wrath helps to understand how he won't torture people for all eternity also. And for anyone lacking understanding, they must ask and wait and not act hastily, because we read that. And not just in one place ever. If there is a teaching and something true, it'll be throughout his word. And to understand something is that even if it's not written with spelling it out simply as literal as you can, one thing, whatever it is, just because it might not be written and spelled out plainly like that somewhere else, it doesn't mean that teaching's not in there still. It doesn't have to in his word. When the Father says, okay, this example here is teaching this thing, but it doesn't, we don't have to read the words like spelled out plainly every time. You just see that something is teaching something, and then so many times the words aren't there exactly how we say it, and so someone will on the other side will see it, but they haven't been given, hey, this is screaming out this teaching here, and they don't see that. Will come across as liars, as not knowing that it's a quick, oh, I can say he's lying real quick. That's what it looks like on the surface. And then whenever there's a possibility of even remotely doing that, people will hit the red button and do it instantly, as quick as they can. I was like hastily, not doing anything, not think, can't see, can't hear, can't meditate, think on it. Just boom, 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 fast, no rest. But that's a given that unbelievers will do that continually for everything that's good and true. But it's also a given that his people will do this, because that's how we learn. It's just that you start learning, though, and the heart is changed, but it needs to change, and it's changing, growing. It's alive. It just needs to grow now. The plant, the seed sprouted in somebody. The kingdom of heaven sprouted. It became alive now, and when it's conceived in the earth, the very moment like it cracks and is conceived is not the same moment it comes out of the ground and sees light. So then being born again from above is like being conceived, is being born. But then in another sense, to see this, we haven't been born yet, because the full thing is being born again from above, the resurrection, being born, changed, and now born. But the first birth, if you will, anyone that believes, is born. And now they got to grow up sort of like the natural picture it is. But they're conceived, though, and born, and yet not born. Someone's looking at letters and trying to make no contradictions. They are actually making lies and contradictions. And then the spiritual understanding won't be seen. Then the works won't be done the way it needs to be done. That is a lie in the church world. That his word contradicts left and right as we read it literally and simply. I don't know, maybe one of these times collect a bunch of, I just haven't had like the real strong want or need to do something like that, but I can see maybe sometimes it's beneficial to sort of do it like a little religious way. But planning, it's just that it doesn't matter what we do. Whoever hates truth and hates the Father, it won't do them anything. They'll attack regardless of all the proof in the world. But it, for a benefit for anyone that's in Messiah, is that to start understanding and acknowledging, because it's easily proven that we can grab scriptures and not even out of context, just take one scripture and compare it to another somewhere else, and it's contradicting. And then you could do this who knows how many times. That would be the thing. How many are there? Thousands? 10,000s? And this is actually a good thing. It's a lie to deny that this is true, and that's what they do, the backwards thing. I never was taught this growing up in the church world. They say there's no contradictions. That's how they understand no contradictions. Reading letters and seeing a natural understanding instantly with our own understanding, with our own thinking, carnal, and comparing it to another natural, our own thinking, carnal, not realizing that through this there's blinding going on because of his judgments, and unable to see the spiritual thing of his word. All day long, we could literally prove that his word literally contradicts with letters and scriptures, comparing on the outside the words with another verse, one verse to another. It contradicts. There's many contradictions. But in spirit, since all things are one, it's like opening a drawer. And you have to say, I'm opening this drawer, and now I'm comparing it to another drawer. If someone tries to say something about the Father's truth, and it is truth, obviously here an example, assuming it is truth, whatever the truth is, they're not lying. Anybody that's speaking, the Father's truth and whatever it is, if they try to attack it, they can't see what they're doing, because it thinks it's wise, but it's wanting to attack. The carnal mind is doing this. So it's extraordinarily blind and short-sighted, and it's only seeing, and then it thinks, oh, got you in a contradiction. Yet when we simply can prove easily over and over again literal contradictions, just as the person tried to do attack, for himself now in the church world, they never do this. You can give them 50 things. They never do this. But if they exactly do that on you, one thing, boom, you're hosed, you're toast, you're false, you're lying, you're wicked, it's a lie, it's a lying teaching. And then they got it all over themselves. But of course, the one attacking is never in any sin, never doing what he's attacking for, which falsely accusing without righteous judgment or discernment. This is what I'm talking about. And it's amazing and shocking. This is where the love and care comes from the Father, the Spirit, to start caring, first of all, about whatever it is we're learning and being given, caring. Now, the world already doesn't care. So to see you caring is an abomination. It's a sin. It's a sin to actually care. It's an abomination to the devil. Should be a given. You know, I wonder how this wasn't a given to see this, whatever I'm seeing here. And then after seeing it, it should be a given. But it wasn't for me at all. Zero. I mean, those that are of the enemy, it's an enmity. It's a full-blown hatred and enmity, spiritually, specifically. Whatever is true and good, anybody of the enemy has to hate it. They can't love the actual thing, but through all kinds of lies, trickery, and deception, someone can make it sound like, because they're doing loopholes and playing games. When you start spotting it, what they're really talking about, that's when the problem arises in them and wrath comes out, because they never thought anybody could see. It's already believed that, it already sees that nobody can see. Nobody's ever seen before receiving his Spirit. So then it just knows one thing: darkness and blind. I mean, this is not even going on then in mind, specifically in the blind, that, oh, I don't, no, but it just already is. It's hard to put in words. It's already putting whatever it is on you, that you're as blind as they are, perfectly in darkness. When they see humble, assuming they see actual humble Father's work, it will be an abomination, because the devil doesn't love humble and can't be humble, has never been humble. Spirit of the enemy is pride, not humble. The image makes itself look like what someone would think is humble. When the image is prideful, not talking about real pride or humble right now, when someone's image looks in someone's mind what they think, this is where all the confusion comes, because what someone thinks, obviously, is so often so little bit or a lot or all the way different than what someone else thinks pride looks like. And then you apply that with everything else in life, because they've never sought after his counsel. So it's just whatever someone believes, thinks, which is not truth. It's a lie. It's a confusion for sin. Babylon is confusion into spiritual confusion. The language is spiritual language is confused. Speaking of the spiritual language right now, using that phrase to try to bring it out, where someone's heart, whatever someone believes and someone is thinking, compared to another's, and then they're both like at war. So then these two divide, and then another person out there not seeking the Father's things and counsel and truth has something a little different for an image, and this image is against that image. But when they speak with words, so often it will sound like they are speaking understanding, but they can say the words all day long with zero understanding, not even believing whatever they say, because someone can say words without believing what it means. Casually saying humble, but the Father hasn't taught them what humble is. And no one's taught in one day, but like zero. Humble is connected to, because it's all one. All things in spirit are one and connected. To start attacking one thing is to attack all because of this truth. This is how the damage is done within somebody. Because to put in one false doctrine for someone's mind and heart is attacking already everything else that's connected to it. In someone's mind and heart, it needs to be going along with the lie. And whatever needs to go along with the lie is destroying everything, it's not allowing for, it's blocking, it's guarding. This is how the damage is done by false prophets, by sneaking in a lie without telling you in the open what they're doing. They do not speak in the open. This is a clever, dark, working in the dark, so picture running in the dark, literally, with no lights anywhere. We're talking about darkness, not light. Not speaking of a street lamp or anything. The dark is dark. The works are done in the dark so nobody sees what they're doing. Kind of like a robber. This is a natural now, carnally speaking. Because the picture's actually, it's the Father's truth. The picture's right. It does mean something. It just needs to be given. Someone robs at night because it's easier, because your face isn't seen. What you're doing is not as easy to see. You can get away easier, if you will. That's in the mind of someone. Not getting away from the Father, though. But in the mind of someone. So it's two different things right there. Depending on what we're speaking of, I'll say contradicting things. Could say, in my heart with no damage or deceit or lie. Conscience bearing witness, the Father bearing witness. That you can hide in the dark and get away, easier to get away. But then I can also say, with actual full belief, you can't hide in the dark. You can't get away at all. And both are true, and this is what it will be like when we get understanding from him with his word. This is why the apostle, the letters even sort of reveal, if someone has ever wondered, that it sounds like he goes back and forth. He speaks of something, but then he says, like, yeah, but if this, that's that, and back and forth, and then it kind of looks a little bit weird, looks a little odd. That's because he's already, his mind and heart is caring about whatever he's saying, that he's understanding in Messiah, about Messiah, truth. He's already seeing what someone will say because of what he says. But when they speak carnally. So then he has to answer for the carnal thing and what he's really speaking about, contrasting with the carnal to bring out the spiritual. It really gets mixed up pretty quick. It's not meant to be understood. None of his words meant to be understood. And yet all of it, whatever we read, is meant to be understood so that we learn what it means and live it. If someone's looking for contradictions just like that right there, they're already hypocrites if that's all they do, because they do that themselves all day long. But if they do that to Messiah's people and try to put one thing on them, they're not talking about what the real thing. They think they got you. Because a contradiction to the carnal man is not a contradiction to the spiritual man or woman that the Father's teaching. But of course, there is a such thing as a carnal, natural kind of contradiction. There's like no hope when we start being given and start growing and understanding. We will understand at some point. I believe every believer will. At some point in their life, they start understanding the impossibility of teaching someone's heart so that they can see and have the power and see the power of the truth and teaching and start seeing ways to live it. That can't be done. It's like laughable to me. But that grows where in the beginning, over time, the truth starts coming in. The Father starts giving you something. Wait a second. because the mind and heart was already doing everything backwards. So then when someone speaks, they're speaking out of, I want to be right, I want to be right, I want to be right, like a child, prideful. And then it's also attacking someone, doing a lot of damage in the heart with false, corrupt intentions in the heart. But the question starts coming in a little bit, but then it grows and grows, and finally it hits somebody where they actually are seeing and believing that you can't teach anybody's heart, and that it's supposed to be like that. We're supposed to receive from the Father and through Messiah, the true teacher, not as if the Father's not the true teacher. There we go, right there. That would be a problem that could be attacked. Because these things are all spiritual, to be seen in spirit. His word is truth. It's all one. You can't take one chunk of his word and cut it off and separate it. It's connected to all other things. And the tree is the perfect picture. When I look at a tree, which I've never looked at it like before this understanding started coming in, you start really appreciating the tree. It's like amazing. You think of his word. It reminds you whatever he's given you for his word, truth, commandments. When you say the words to an unbeliever only, let's say it's an unbeliever, they don't have any understanding yet, because the natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of the Father. And if someone's an unbeliever for real, they haven't received the things of the Father, things of Spirit, and everything. His word is Spirit, to be lived in reality, in the heart, in spirit, and in truth, worshipped in contrast to the natural. That's why Messiah says this, because something about it is new, and yet it's not new. Contradiction. It's not new, and that's what his word always meant. Understanding the reality of people and situation. It never was a reality yet. So now you say it's new. That from Messiah forward, new covenant, worshiping the Father in spirit and in truth became reality. But it wasn't a reality as it is in the new covenant, in the old before. See, and you have to see the one thing in spirit to be able to even put two things up and say contradiction, this thing, and then you say the backwards thing with words, and it's a contradiction literally. If someone has not received the one thing, the good true thing, they don't see it at all. There's nothing to compare when we say the words. This, whatever, any example, you say something and then you say the opposite contradiction with words, and you see and believe both are just equally as true. But you need to see the one thing from above given in order to see that both are true and not contradicting in spirit at all. Oh man, this is amazing what the Father's done. But over time and over the years, it's not insane to me, but I forget, because it's all that my mind's on, the heart's on, are his things. And whatever he's given me, it's applied. It's not bothering me, whatever he's given me. And if I don't see, and something new comes up asking for more understanding, and the carnal's like fading away, it's old. That specific thing, old man, carnal, and everything attached to it, fading away. They can't mix. And yet for a time it's like mixed. I mean, the old man is dead, but he's reckoned as dead. He's not dead yet. He's reckoned as dead in one sense, but in another sense, he's not fully dead, because if he was, we'd be, perfect for everything and all times. So the old man's dying while the new is growing. We have these pictures, but they mean something. And it's like this, I found out, where isn't it? It's everywhere like this with everything. Maybe every single teaching and all things. It's something like this. You have to rightly divide all the time, constantly. If you have one big chunk of food, you have to cut it up and rightly divide it. Divide the mashed potatoes from the peas, divide the carrots. I'm not saying someone has to literally do this with potatoes, but so often even the mankind does this and separates the foods because they need to be separated to be seen, or else you mix the two things and it's no good. But then when we say his word and everything that's truth is one, it's going to sound like we're saying it's mixed. Oh, it's hopeless. My goodness, it's hopeless. Stupid false prophets out in the church world think they actually can give understanding to someone. Out of pride, they boast in people's flesh. It's nonsense. It's evil. And he gives the spirit of wanting to do his good works, desperate to want someone to understand. And then, like, how? You start learning they can't because of what you say by itself. But you start seeing the sins being done where they pretend to understand. And then you know when it's done. And if you were to say anything about it, deny. We're talking about with everything in life, for all things, this is constantly happening. How is that not a tribulation? How is that, if you start, his people are really caring about the real things and commandments, then you truly can't be one in spirit of the Father, Messiah, his people, and with the person that's not of the Father. You can't be one. Nothing in common yet. The church world's so blind, a harlot. Maybe I should just church world. I say church world because world is like worldly, always in a negative, worldly. The God of this world, so church, ecclesia, world, assembly, world, assemblies of the world, in and of the world, or harlot or congregation of the wicked. Pretty offensive. I had something on my mind there, but no. What is it? I hope it's not cutting out badly. It's been doing it in this file a little bit lately. Truly, see, whatever is foolish to the Father, as we read over and over. I mean, all someone has to do is look up the word fool in a Bible app, put in fool, put in foolish, foolishness, and look at some of the scriptures that say this, and the two, whatever the Father knows is foolish to him, we start being in agreement, increasing in this worldly understanding and ways and beliefs of mankind in the world of the world, agreeing more and more. Therefore, in reality, as the Father is changing a believer, they will in reality start becoming fools to those that are not being brought near. And that's real. It's as real as it gets. It's the heart of it. If you start seeing someone's heart could care less for you, that's cold. It is murder, but just speaking of one thing now, it's definitely not love. It's not real. So when they smile and pretend, what is that? It's worse than if they didn't smile and pretend. Truly is. I don't know anybody in Messiah that would disagree with that. It's worse. But don't take me too literally. I'm just saying that to bring something out. Not saying that everyone's going to say it just like that, and that's nobody ever said it any different. It's not the point. But and as I see it, it's even worse. It's disappointing. Because if you're seeing the heart and it's doing some crooked thing to you, but on the outside it's working an image that's not crooked, that image matters not at all. It doesn't matter. It's fake, it's empty, it's void. And once we start seeing the image of the beast, man, you'll start seeing it bleed out through, because I'm seeing it bleed out through creation. It's been there, so many signs through the darkness even. And it's interesting because then the way I would say it is darkness is revealing truth, but yet it's not revealing truth. Darkness is not truth. It's revealing truth in that, seeing this through a certain way. But when we say the words, it would sound contradicting. Where you say one thing and you believe it, and you say another thing and you believe it just the same. Someone that's not seeing the understanding, the heavenly understanding in you, and then here's the words you say. They only see, I am tall and I am short, literally, and that's it. So then they can only see foolishness and contradiction in anything that's not being understood. So what would damage someone? What would be a spiritual guard, like somebody standing by the rock, couple soldiers keeping them from Messiah? No, we don't want them to die in Messiah. No, and then be resurrected in him even now. We'll guard the way. But there's so many ways to do this spiritually. If someone teaches on the outside, and this is believed in someone's heart, that his word does not contradict, naturally, the natural man only has the natural understanding first, because we read first the natural, then the spiritual. No one's ever had the true spiritual understanding of something first. So then naturally, I could say, someone would say, they would already believe and think, and even this is all divided. That's why the world's so divided. But a contradiction, the natural understanding of a contradiction, that's what they would have first. And so then, in order to guard truth from people, or keep it from them, ways, guards, traps, loopholes that lead somewhere else, is by saying his word does not contradict, because the natural man is going to see that as a natural thing only. And I guess that needs to be seen to say this thing compared to spiritual contradiction. But so then the way it's understood is you read a scripture and it doesn't literally backwards contradict anywhere else in his word. That would be someone's, like, his word doesn't contradict. Now, of course, they have to inject context, because there'll be some problems they see and they have to protect it. It doesn't work. What they do. There's many contradictions. In fact, it's the stumbling block. Stumbling block is something that is meant to make you trip. If you don't seek the Father, you will trip over this word or contradiction. If it wasn't a contradiction or an enigma or a riddle or a problem, it wouldn't be a stumbling stone. You can't say one without all those others being true. If it really, for real, is not a stumbling stone, it's truth, which means it's simple and no contradictions. If it's a stumbling stone to someone in their mind and heart, they tripped over contradictions, enigmas, and riddles and problems not being understood in the mind and heart, and that his word has everywhere. So it's like walking around in the forest or something, and there's rocks, there's holes, there's traps, and it makes you trip or get caught. And they get caught lying. But when they get caught lying, the only thing left when all doors are shut and they've been cornered, not that the intention is to hate and corner someone, but if someone's giving truth, it will just do that to the liar. See? And the difference between those two things is the heart. But they will look pretty darn close to each other. And the Father sees and knows the difference. It's the very thing we're supposed to be learning. Did you say this so that you hurt them, to put them down, raise you up, murder them, hatred in the heart, trick them, deceive them? Is that why this was said? Or did someone give truth, always seeing Messiah as it are, even reading as the example? He gives truth and it will do that anyways to them. What's the thing that they can only claim you're doing to them? The evil thing. When the unbeliever in this world, the harlot in this world, does not see or understand the thing needing to be given, and they have incentive to protect their doctrine. With these two things combined, the only thing a man and woman can do that's of and in and of this world, continually never learning, is falsely accuse. And maybe that's why devil means false accuser, even the word itself. Maybe it happens a lot. Yes, it does. And to be falsely accused constantly is a tribulation. It's a tribulation. It's not exactly fun, although you start learning and finding out that it's the way. Therefore, okay, if this is the way, then I might as well be rejoicing in it. What am I going to do? Do evil, be miserable every time it happens, punch something every time it happens? When you start learning it's going to happen all the time, it's never going to go away. We might as well do the Father's way. His way is good. See, the other way will be against his way, and it's going to only hurt us. So then this is like learning and growing. I see these things in my heart, but the words are coming out like that. And the words all by themselves don't mean whatever the Father's understanding that he gives someone. It's not the meaning. By itself, cut off, just words. Why do they say that? His Bible word doesn't contradict. It's backwards. Now I know it's a little more, the system is a little more complex than his word doesn't contradict. So then they have these other tools, systems, ways, and then through one of them in their names that I'm already forgetting what they use, big complicated names and words, something tologies and this and that, and they're all injected in there to create their own carnal categories and systems when it's something like that spiritually. But that's the replacement, and if that's the replacement, it's guarding the truth. It is like opening a drawer in someone's mind and heart when it's given, and you have to see the thing first of all, or else there is no drawer. It doesn't exist. So that has to be true, has to be given. Then you have to see the other one, that whatever's being spoken of. You have to see them both. Then you say, okay, this is this here, speaking of, now comparing to this over here. All right, somebody's celebrating out there. I've heard these every few minutes. Pretty loud firecrackers. What is it? Pagan October 9th? I don't know if there's just people flying around right now. I don't know that October 9th is anything special in and of the world. Not special to me. So someone will rejoice. There's a certain understanding there when the apostle says that. It does not mean a bunch of false accusations coming at that scripture. He's speaking about the one thing, and it's just true. Someone will rejoice alone, in contrast to the false thing, rejoicing, boasting, pride in others, because they command and tell them what to do. This is spiritual fornication, orgies with anybody and everyone. Come join the party. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But someone needs to start seeing what spiritual sorcery is to be able to see the lie. That's why the enemy knows not what he does. It's too big. It's too grand a lie. But it doesn't mean they don't know something about what they're doing is evil, but they cannot admit it. So they start becoming hardened worse and worse, and they believe their own lie. Because of pride and being judged, they're sent a lie and a delusion to believe their own lie. in their mind and heart, they can't believe anything else. They cannot believe they're a liar and a deceiver. They cannot ever admit that. But, for every evil thing, somewhere inside knows it's doing some kind of evil. And this is the deception of the harlot. It's a spiritual fornication. It's something like a natural fornication with different peoples. You would call that, what do we call that? Porn stars and orgies. That's what's going on in the harlot. It's no different. Someone's not overcoming that, but they have overcome this natural thing. What you call them, from not calling them, but for the sin from above, the Father knowing the commandments, a sorcerer, even rapist, spiritual fornication, orgies. That person does all those things while he thinks he doesn't, never admitting the heart things, never acknowledging a day in his life. Of himself, he can do nothing, can't even repent. It's the Father's mercy. This is for those that have the Father, His Spirit, to overcome this world. This is not for those who will attack the rest of their life and do evil and never believe and come to knowledge of truth, because that's to come for them. It will be a sudden shock and terror. It must be, to be exposed all at once, the shame of someone's nakedness and sin, as Adam and Eve are exposed as naked, but then the Father covers them only after exposing them fully as naked, which involves all kinds of sins. And that's the little picture we have with Adam and Eve. All mankind need to be made in the image of the Father and covered, but not before judgment and exposing and revealing the shame of their own nakedness. There was no understanding for any of us before the Father starts giving it. So then it's not about the literal clothes covering the literal body. Up, you're exposed as literally naked. It's an interesting thing because everybody already is, which means everyone's already carnal and a sinner, because someone that's naked is going to sin. It's carnal. But then covering the body, but man tries to cover himself. That spiritual understanding here is Adam and Eve cover themselves, but the Father's covering is the sacrifice. So then it's not about literal animal sacrifice with the skins, and yet it's connected directly to what it really means. And when you take off the meaning with no meaning, spiritual understanding, the animal skins mean nothing because you took away the meaning of it. It's worthless. And that's how the commandments are seen by the carnal Jews only. Letters that kill, condemn, pride, boasting in others' flesh is the only way a carnal Jew does, just as anybody that's not a carnal Jew, but just in and of the world, a Gentile. It condemns and does all the same things the carnal Jew does while he's boasting that he's godly now, even keeping the commandments, believing he's good because he keeps the literal commandments all by itself. It sounds like we're throwing down the law to someone that wants it to sound like that, because I know it's what I had to go through. And that's loud. It's not that long ago, and I'm constantly, I'm learning. It's not like it's over. Who knows how much more we have to see and learn. You start seeing two things because when we're given from above, then we can contrast the natural that man can speak of, natural things. Here's a log, okay. Now contrast to what it means. You have two things now, not just one, rightly dividing between the flesh, like we read. This doesn't mean anything in the church world, because there is no spiritual understanding. There's no life, no spirit, no understanding, death, cold, hearts, divided, all these bad things, confusion. There's nothing to rightly divide. There is no food to divide rightly, because it's not even there. There's no spiritual food. If it's not given, there is no spiritual food to rightly divide and compare and contrast. Start learning about it. Someone gets a plate and you rightly divide your food. There's someone doing that literally. I rightly divide my plate of food. And he's a carnal Jew and says, now I'm righteous because I literally do this natural work, my own works, rightly dividing my own food, my own works, my own understanding, my own thoughts. Of course, that's not the full understanding of our own works. Our own works are works of the flesh. Well, there's a natural understanding of that, and then there's the spiritual. The whole world cannot see the spiritual. Spiritual lust, fornication, murder, thefts, robbing temples, rape, orgies, all these things. But the flesh representing evil, negative works of the flesh are evident. And then we read a list of, here's some evident works of the flesh. But there's the natural, and then there's this last minute stuff. All right. So there's a natural raping, then there is a spiritual raping. So we say works of the flesh. It is both of those things. Because raping is the works of the flesh. It's wicked. But there's a spiritual understanding of raping someone. Even, maybe how you could say, like, maybe to help mentally, or, it's not like a literal flesh, physical. So those are works of the flesh. The only thing man is flesh. Those are his works. So concerning his commandments, when he thinks he keeps the commandments, he believes he's righteous because of what he himself does for keeping the commandments he reads all by itself, its own understanding, its own works. And now it makes it self-righteous. That's self-righteousness. It's the definition of rebellion. It's worse than a Gentile. Because now coming in his name, making a show for a light. This is a big thing to project. And if it's not, it's worse than a Gentile that doesn't claim anything. Yeah, order up. I got it. All right. Oh, it's hard to say these things knowing that they're already offensive constantly to the whole unbelieving world, obviously. But I hope that it's not to anybody that believes, or if it's not making sense yet, to just ask the Creator, put it aside, wait for it. That's what I've had to do with anything that wasn't understanding. That's what I will need to do. It's what's going on constantly with something that's not understanding. What is this? If I have to start thinking about it myself, like you would normally think, let me think about it. It's not a good sign. It's a sign for somebody. If they have to sit there and go, let me think, I'm going to make it work. Admit you don't know. That's not seeing in spirit what it means, because you wouldn't have to do that for more than a split second most of the time, because the carnal mind is thinking. It doesn't appear. So when you think, you try to make something appear. It's a sign that we're not understanding something. Of course, the natural man thinks that's good. That's all he knows. That's all he has. He's God. There's nothing to contrast to. This is for those that, now this thing is no good. For the carnal man, it is good. That's all he's ever done is think. How's that working for this world? There's more divisions than anybody could count. It's probably more divisions than stars. How's that thinking working? It's smoking. The Father knows best. He knows, period. He's shown me the carnal mind smokes. It thinks all so hard just to get a lie with zero understanding in reality. When we acknowledge and do the Creator's will with our heart wanting to, boom, we don't even think and smoke like that, and the Father gives actual understanding with no actual work, like the carnal man is thinking and working in contrast. That's pretty shameful, embarrassing to someone thinking and smoking, and they don't ever get understanding doing that. In contrast to acknowledging our sins, acknowledging we don't know, waiting on Him, asking with our heart, with all our heart. And at the proper time, He just gives you something. Boom. You see, this is what it means. Boom. There it is. Boom. And we weren't thinking and smoking and working and doing studies like crazy, which is going to make it sound like reading or something or a little study is automatically rotten and bad. Not talking about that at all. Zero. But that's all an attacker does, and then we have nothing in common. Light truly has no fellowship with darkness. Zero. But I hope anybody, if indeed whoever passes by, as there always might be someone passing by, I mean, obviously that doesn't believe at all, that they either learn, acknowledge, not acknowledge, that either they learn whatever's on their mind, bothering them, confusing, and or come to believe. But I know because of the scripture, Solomon shown that the many of the world, most of the time, many, not having anything to do with knowing who and counting numbers, just that the many, majority, we have to watch them bounce off and attack and go away. They just won't believe because of the Father's sovereignty and power. So do the Father's will, want to seek to do the Father's will with the heart. That is the heart of all of it. It's all the Father. It sounds like it's all the Father wanted, but I'm not saying that out of Him not being sovereign. It's just to see that this is a good thing. That's all the Father's ever wanted. You know, it's the heart of it. I'm not saying that out of a carnal, religious, in the harlot, pride and free will. He wants it so bad. Jesus is crying in heaven. Why? Because he wants to do more and he can't. It's blasphemy. That's someone that's a God in their own mind with their own throne. They enjoy it. They speak of themselves. They have no security, no nothing, have never done a good work in their life. And they casually speak of the Creator as a golden calf that it drags around with a rope. And then they spread their lies with jets, planes, and all these things to go and tell someone their dream they had about Jesus weeping because He can do no more. It's up to you now. God, it's sick. It's sick, the carnal man, but this is the way He's made it to be. I guess we have a lot to learn because of that reality. And it's definitely for that purpose. And doing so many other things. Bringing out who the Father is, judgment, His power, showing He's true, could be trusted. Oh, it's sick. Every day that goes by, it gets sicker. The carnal man and what flesh and what the pride is and what the evil thing is. Oh, that's sick. It's sick. I can't believe they even get away with it without being struck by lightning. You know, that's being... See, so when that comes in first, we're going to want to over punish with like evil and torture because everything we are needs to be who the Father is. Get ready back messed up. The Father has proper, true, according to His own counsel, patience, long suffering, has no pleasure in the death of the wicked. We start learning, and the stubborn child starts going, evil, wicked, as I've done in my mind and heart, deserves to be tortured, deserves something, punish him, you know, but like saying all these things out of not understanding. And and actually wanting more hurt than whatever is righteous and true. So then now you have to start learning the patience and long suffering that you need to give. Because what happens, and I want to just say, because I can look back on these things and still need to watch out every day for it. When someone's given actual understanding, it's going to tempt them to be prideful and start like torturing people in our mind, meaning not like literally, but wanting to see more punishment, way more than whatever is actually the Father knows is good, and then start rising up in pride, and it's no good, no good. But that will tempt us because the knowledge is real, and you can start seeing that the world doesn't have it. What is that going to do? Oh, it's going to tempt us to rise up in pride. How on earth can we overcome that? Real, actual truth, security, knowledge, real comfort, real good works coming in, compared in contrast to knowing what we didn't have, and then seeing the world that doesn't know and doesn't have. What are they going to claim? What are you, God? You should be president of something, of the world, in mockery and all this. But that's actually what we'll be tempted to start falling like that spiritually in the mind and heart of someone that's being given these things. It will do that already. It's going to tempt because it's real. I mean, it's for you, anybody in Messiah, to start seeing that that's true. That the world doesn't have understanding at all concerning the Father's things and His Word and what it really means, whatever we're learning. It really doesn't. It's just true, but from their perspective of darkness only darkness and no actual understanding. It needs to attack and do what it's always done. It doesn't want to see any evidence of truth and knowledge and good works and love, life, real things, humble, all these things. Secure, strength. These are all being given by the Father, not through and carnal, own flesh, strength, pride, strength, denial, strength, being given strength, that the Father gives, because the weak are strong and the strong are weak. If the one is true, we can say the other, because it's true spiritually. We see the weak are strong because they don't have any. That's the perfect thing when we read this. They don't have any confidence in the flesh. That needs to, this is true, and it needs to become more true. It gets better. And so then weakness is actually good, but weakness is offensive to this world. See, whatever that real weakness is, it will be offensive spiritually, and there'll be a war. They're going to hate it. It's just true. So you'll see Messiah's always going back, and if we have any questions or doubt, what did he say? What did he do? We could always, but always asking the Father for understanding. But nevertheless, what Messiah did was no sin. No one can say what he did is sin, is it? Of course, they can't even say that, and we believe that because the Father's works as a sacrifice, Messiah became. But could speak about all those things, whatever, which I had no understanding of, and then a little understanding, and then a little more, and always increasing. He's walking around with confidence, truth, and strength and peace when we're all doing what's right and good, as he's the perfect example. If the Father made Messiah, working through Messiah to overcome, there's no excuse for us, because it would take less power to do what he's doing with us, because he already did the greater thing in Messiah. So everything is possible. There's nothing that's impossible with him. But Messiah has strength, confidence, truth, peace, life, care, real love, and he's walking around with all these things, extraordinarily offensive to anybody that's an enemy. And that's exactly what happened that we read. This is the account, the real things that happen. So, but none of these things are from pride. They can't see the difference. It sees strength. It's offended because it has none. It's always been pretending. That's cowardly. Who wants that? Be weak now. Be a fool now. You get the real things from the Father. Forget this pretending, coward, sin, darkness, delusions, anxieties, fears, doubts, all these destructions, all within. Foolishness, stupidity, confusion, like continually, never goes away. So when they see strength, they only see one thing: strength. They don't see what strength it is. They see strength and they don't like it because the strength is being projected in an image. But the works of the heart will prove whether that strength is carnal and evil or true, righteous from above. The works of the heart prove it, which is never proof to those that don't know him. Man, if someone is seeing those words right there and what they're meaning, everything that the church world's done is backwards as can be. They don't actually believe that. Instead, they pump the lie that everyone's been saved, or not saved, but everyone's got the free gift. Everyone's needing to believe, putting in debt, pressure, obligation with something very good and serious from above, as if it's bought. And it gets nasty. It's too big to, because I gotta go right now. It's nonsense. It's evil. It's contradicting. If someone's actually been given something, that's the Father giving. No one can be given something and not receive it. But that's how deception works in the carnal mind constantly. You could say that with delusions inside, saying, well, it means this because I changed it. But they'll say the words anyways. I don't really care about actual truth. The Father never gave anyone anything, and they didn't. You can't call him a giver. If he gave someone something, he gave it. The only way you can call someone a giver is if indeed they gave for real. And the only way to give for real is if the other received it. And they say the free gift was given to all at the same time. This sounds good, doesn't it? Oh, it always sounds good. That's the nastiest thing. That's like a hard thing to overcome, is that the lie sounds good, pretty much all of it. Make it sound good and good, light, and even precious or carnal, carnally precious. And it's actually the lie. It's evil. It's a lie and a contradiction. It's satanic. It's a doctrine of demons. Because if someone really believes that and they take that in, it's only destroying them. Yes, it is inside. They don't have truth, believing that forever. It's through pride. I'm better than everyone, boasting, because they chose something. And now everybody else needs to jump up and grab it or something. It's just been given to them. Is it given or not? I wonder what their answer would be if we started asking these specific things. I know what the answer would be. Not word for word. In one word, nasty. That's what it would be. First of all, they would try to immediately go around the problem. You got to try the easiest, quickest way first. And then if not, eventually get the guards and get them out. They will literally cower out. That's what they would do if it was face to face. Get them out. Get them out. That's what happens with hirelings. How is that someone that cares about people? They get angry and want you to go away. They don't want to answer. See, so they need, the last thing now is get out of here. Go, they want you to go away for an evil, cowardly fear. And it's like that with like everything they teach. And so then I've learned over time, it's definitely not about trying to tell each and every person in there out of like wanting to see them exposed like this. There's a specific sin here. It's kind of hard to put in words, but there's always the thing that we can do that will look like it, though, to be accused for. But then there's the real sin going on. of wanting someone's like nakedness exposed. Pull off his robe. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Picture the natural thing. And would we want that done to us? Pull off his robe, expose him. But when you give truth out of love in the spirit, it will already do that. But you're not pulling his robe. They won't believe you. Man, it's a fine line. You walk backwards to help Noah if someone's fallen. You don't want in your heart to see. That's why the man is cursed. Has anybody wondered? I wondered. I didn't wonder, but then I wondered. Then I started asking. Then he starts giving. Before, I didn't even care. It never even crossed my mind. You could read that 10,000 times in the church world, and it's never important or it crosses the mind to ask what it means. It's pride. It's blinding. There's a real way to live that. And we read it again in Mark. Stripped his robe and he fled naked. That's evil work right there. But we have to understand that if someone's giving someone truth, once again, Messiah being our perfect example, it will already do the things that we're watching for, but they will accuse every time it's given to throw that truth down. The truth, the Father's word, cuts up, and you don't cut someone up unless it's doing those very things we're saying here, or I'm saying here. It's going to do that anyways. But you can do this when the intention and heart is right. The Father knows whether it is or not, and will bear conscience. Giving truth, and it will do that anyways. Isn't this pretty kind of strange? It's pretty narrow. Where's the you got two things. Where's the path? Where is it? It needs to appear. It's crooked, it needs to appear. It's very narrow. It's like this with everything. But it gets better because we're still, I kind of see it. Maybe, I don't know. Doing a little bit of it, not that great. It just gets better. It's like a miracle right before spiritualize, growing, because confusion is no good. So then it's for someone to understand if they can be honest with themselves. We always being honest, the best that we've been given for self, to others, for self, to self also. Then we can see confusion rise up inside and say, I'm confused, and just acknowledge it to the Creator, But see, this is like a whole new thing because the carnal man's never confused. I know everything. Speaking about these spiritual things, it does pretty much, it believes it knows everything, It's okay to be confused carnally on the outside when it's not a big deal, when it's like everything is going in your favor for your image. Then you can be sorry all you want and do all that all you want. If it threatens the image a little, you can't do that. They can't do that. See, so even when a carnal person is speaking truth, they're still not speaking truth, even though they could be carnally saying grass is green. They only did that because everything is going its way, how it thinks it should go. As soon as a tiny little bit of pressure comes, lie. But then it takes pride when it says truth, and it will act as confident as it does when it's lying. Be angry when you don't believe them. We've done all these things. But it's so good not to have that, that you start overcoming that. Someone doesn't believe you? Okay. The Father gives you enough confidence to where you can start keeping this thing, not sinning and getting angry and wrath and trying to prove something to them, which will lead to more wrath and sin. Admonish, give. They don't believe you. They don't believe you. Shake the dust off your feet. Don't keep going and kicking. And then walk, move on. Take the peace back with you. They want to steal your peace. If it's an enemy, it wants to steal your peace and disturb your resting place, like we read in Scripture. The Father says to the wicked, I mean, it's almost like that, I think. It says like it's speaking to them, wicked. Don't disturb the resting place of his people. Something like this. And this is to be understood, it's real. They want to plunder. Don't plunder their resting place. Because they're in unrest constant. All right, I really have to go. This could be another hour and I might never do this order. Peace, take care, seek truth from the Father above only.